All right. Well, welcome to the Focused Fundraiser. This is where we discuss how to focus on the right fundraising practices because doing more isn't the goal, doing what matters most is. And the goal with this time is to hear from successful fundraisers who are in the trenches, like Kelly, and who are willing to share those practices that they use on a daily basis. So, Kelly, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You are the founder and the executive director of Hope Blooms. Is that correct?
Yep, yep.
Awesome. So let's start a little bit with that background. What did you do before Hope Blooms, and how did you move into founding your own nonprofit?
Yeah. Well, I have a background in communications, and I spent the better part of a decade working at a local hospice organization. And my job was to tell the stories of those people who were at end of life, their caregivers, family members, supporters. And so, really leaning into that, I just have always loved nonprofit work and definitely got that nonprofit buzz or bug, I guess, from my work at hospice. And it dovetailed nicely into what we do here at Hope Blooms from the perspective of one thing that really stayed on my heart from my time at hospice was you can do the smallest thing and it can help someone feel whole, even for a moment. And that is what we do every day at Hope Blooms. And so, it started out as this idea like thrifting is like my love language. I love repurposing things. But it was something I was just going to do for a little while and set up stuff in the basement of my home to do stuff on nights and weekends while I was actually still working full time. And it's something that just honestly blossomed because of the wonderful community we live in. So, I also was very close to my grandmother growing up, and about half of who we serve are seniors. And so, just took a mix of the things that I guess I've cared about for a long time and put it to good use for the community.
Hmm, that's so great. I love that. I've heard that before from you, but hearing it again is always great. And a question from it, I think I'm curious to know is launching Hope Blooms. You started it as part time and you moved it into full time. What do you have some lessons learned that you would share with other potential founders of that transition from going from just a part-time nonprofit to establishing it as a full-time nonprofit?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key takeaway for me is, we live in a world where it's very easy to have access to other people, to look up resources online, things like that. But I think really the key is each journey is so individual, and so being really careful not to, I guess, compare your current reality if you're looking to build something to someone else's because all the variables are different. And so I didn't set out to say I'm going to found a nonprofit, and it naturally organically grew. And as it started to grow, I was having babies. I was in a stage of my life where it wasn't I wasn't able to just quit and say I'm going to do this and focus on this, outside of, what am I going to get paid and things like that. I was able to continue to grow the mission and put people in place at the mission who could help it grow, right? So I started by hiring my very first employee was part-time, and she helped run some of the things that the day-to-day operations that would need to be done, but maybe once I came on board wouldn't be my role anyways. And
Yeah.
so my journey was a little bit different in that I kind of backed myself in, and I had uh let's see here, four people working at Hope Blooms before I was employed full time here. And so that's just a little bit different than I think a lot of other journeys. But again, I think that's what made sense for me. That was what worked for Hope Blooms at that time. And being able to kind of weigh all those things and like, can you keep something going personally? And if being able to quit everything and focus on that thing is something you can do, like that's incredible. And so I think my biggest takeaway is there's no one way to do it and no one way in which to be successful and generate a lot of community support.
That's good. I like that. So, was there anything that was maybe harder than you expected when you were starting this up? Especially in the fundraising space as you were getting to, I would assume, learn that from the ground up?
Yeah. Yeah, everything. I mean, I had worked I was on, the marketing team, and we worked very closely with the development team at the hospice organization I worked with, but I didn't work in development. I wouldn't say I necessarily innately knew, like, what is a development plan? Like, what does that look like? And things like that. So I think everything everything is harder when you put it in the context of how you think it should be done, right? When you should all over yourself. And then when you realize, like, yes, some of the same practical strategies will probably apply from organization to organization, but I'm unique. Hope Blooms is unique. The gifts and services that we bring to the community are unique. And just maybe our development strategy should reflect that. And so building it organically in a way that felt very authentic to who we are as a mission and who I am as a person when as the leader of the organization, I think has just helped us naturally grow into this into that development space and fundraising space very intentionally, and just with the same thought that we serve our mission, right? Community first, and being able to really be value and really be intentional about relationships. And so it's been more difficult because there isn't necessarily like a template, but in the same time, it still feels like natural and authentic to who we are. And so, um, yeah, I don't think there's anything that we do in the nonprofit space that doesn't feel like it's difficult, but I just think remaining true to who you are, and not, I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm trying to fulfill our nonprofit mission, and I believe in it wholeheartedly, and just wanting to share that mission with others.
Hmm. Was that something you had to learn in the sense of, were there any things early on that you felt like, oh, I need to be doing this to raise awareness and support because I've seen it successful, or that
Yeah.
somebody told me to do this, but now
Yeah.
you just let it go because it's not part of your guys' way of doing things?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I still run into that. I mean, like, being, you know, being intentional to try to not let what someone else is doing. I mean, it can inspire us for sure, but like just being very intentional and saying, like, these are two separate things. They're apples and oranges. And so what might work for someone else, there may be a takeaway for that for us, but also it's okay that we do our own thing. And that is something that, I still struggle with. And I think that we'll just as humans, you can't help but, compare sometimes, but just trying to be very intentional about what matters to our mission, what matters to our supporters and those that we serve. um it really helps kind of keep that focus. But there isn't, I guess, necessarily one particular thing that pops out, but there's definitely things that I've seen that have been, inspiring, and other things that feel like, oh wow, that's so cool, I wish we could do that, or gosh, I feel a little bit deflated because I don't know that that would work here, and it's just a constant reminder of who you are and who your values are, and how you can be the best conduit for your organization.
It's good. So Hope Blooms, you guys impact people and facilities across the region. As the founder, you were wearing probably all the hats until you hired some of those, and even now you're probably still stepping
Yeah.
into those hats every now and then. How do you decide on a weekly basis, maybe from a fundraising standpoint, because that's the focus of this? How do you decide on a weekly basis what to focus on, what to move forward?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have a very small team, and so wearing a lot of hats is definitely key. I think for me, it's what big things do we have coming up, right? It's do we have some big fundraisers coming up and things like that that need my attention? So that's kind of on like like a quarterly basis. So trying to weigh what are those individual things that I need to be doing to be successful at that, but also just keeping, one thing that's really helped is who are, just something as simple as like, who are our biggest supporters, right? Where are the biggest opportunities to grow and people who've showed interest in the mission and being able to give them the time and attention that they deserve. And so I'm not quite at time blocking yet, but that is that is like a goal of mine. But just being able to just keep in touch, right? Keep track, whether that's dropping somebody a note, whether it's giving them a quick phone call or a text, and just being aware, I think, is number one, which seems so simple, but when you have a lot of competing priorities and things that are going on a day-to-day basis that need help or support outside of that primary role, it's hard to lose focus on something that's or easy to lose focus on something so small. So being aware and then being intentional with making those connections, even with everything else on my plate.
Have you found a cadence or a framework that you use to make sure that those follow-ups don't fall through the cracks?
Yeah, I have I'm still kind of, I've been here for full time for a little less than 2 years, and so I'm still looking at that overall framework and what that looks like. But I mean, I think of it from the context of like, how often would my friend want to hear from me? I mean, these are people that I care about. There are people that help us, serve our nonprofit mission, and so I think being able to be on a regular cadence, whether that's monthly, every other month, does something I see remind me of them? I mean, so just trying to be really extra intentional about those touch points too. And then it's not just an email message or, that's set up on some sort of frequency, but there's a reason for the reach out too, whether that's just sharing an amazing story with you or, hey, I saw this thing and it really reminded me of a conversation we had, and I think being able to have that relationship, that more just a little bit more intentional relationship is a reflection on who we are as an organization too. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think as a follow-up, so Hope Blooms has been a DonorDoc customer. You guys are one of the originals, the OGs,
Yeah, the
and
OGs, I
so
love it.
we we had the opportunity recently to come and experience Hope Blooms firsthand and volunteer. And so, from my experience, you do a fantastic job of making your volunteers and donors feel like they are part of the mission. They're not on the outside looking in. And you spend a lot of effort making them feel like this is as much theirs as it is yours.
Yeah.
Um, it feels like it felt like to me like that is a very important piece to your mission. But what's the importance of this to you? How do you feel it affects your funds and your volunteers signing up, all of that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I feel good that you felt that way from the perspective of community is the reason we exist. Whether that is outside our walls, serving our mission and bringing hope and light and joy to people facing hardship or loneliness or isolation, to those intentional times that we have for volunteers in our shop. And so just or a fundraising event, right? I want you to feel like you can feel that source of like that sense of community, that sense of purpose, that sense of you belong here in all our interactions. And so do sometimes we fail? Yeah, I'm sure. But my hope is that the majority of the time when you're interacting with Hope Blooms or one of our staff or one of our volunteers, you feel that extension of community, you feel that extension of love and of mattering. And I feel like that's why people are really drawn to our mission. I mean, the flowers certainly don't hurt, but I think once you come through our doors and you kind of like feel that little bit of spark, that spark of joy, it does keep you wanting to come back or keep you hopeful for things in the future, or just wanting to be associated with a source of light. And that is one of the things I believe we bring to the community in all of our interactions.
That's very good. I love that. So I imagine you as a founder have experienced burnout in at one stage or another in all of this. Do
Yeah.
you have a routine? Do you have rituals? How have you avoided burnout or gotten past it if it has happened?
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely has happened, probably multiple times. I try not to focus as much on those, but for me, it's being intentional in my personal life as well. And I thrive on those close relationships. And so um, it's trying to set work aside a little bit, even though, it's not something I ever forget about, certainly, and it's easy to go home with that. But trying to be intentional when I go home, right? I try not to be on my phone when my kids are up. Try not to be on the computer when my kids are up. Having intentional time with my girlfriends is something that always soothes my soul. And so just being aware that when I know I haven't had uninterrupted time with people that I care about, that I value, that I laugh with, that I really, thrive with, then eh, I'm much more likely to head into a burnout stage. And so just trying to stay ahead of that and keep up regular, contact. And if it's just a phone call and not an in-person thing, my favorite thing is to call basically everyone on the way to work. And some people answer and some people don't, but I keep calling. And I just think like it matters to know that you matter, right? And so one of the things that really fills me up is just reminding the people that I care about that they matter to me. So,
Hmm, that's so good. So what
yeah.
piece of advice would you give to another fundraiser who's feeling that overwhelm and they're managing all these hats and operations and scale? What's the advice you give them?
Yeah. I think yeah, definitely try to make time for yourself. And whatever that looks like. Mine isn't necessarily what fills me up isn't necessarily time by myself, right? I just said it's time with other people. But also being able to just prioritize based on what you think can move the needle, and not necessarily what you think others think you should be doing, is key. And also, I mean, just sometimes just making a list, right? And it's like, what are the top priorities? Where can you have the most impact? Are you going to spend 90% of your effort on something that's going to provide 1% of the return? Or is there possibly a more impactful bucket that you could spend time in? I don't think time is ever wasted relationship building, and that is definitely something that takes a while, and something then that needs to be nurtured and cared for. But I think also not being afraid to ask for help, right? I mean, I did this with the community. We are still fully supported by the community. I'm supported by the people around me. I'm supported by my amazing team. And so, whether that's from a volunteer capacity or whether that's from an advice capacity, just being able to seek out and ask for help, because I didn't know anything really when I started. I knew that I had a heart to serve. I knew I wanted people to feel good and like they belonged in our community. But I think there's just so many people out there that can offer an insight or just a different way of thinking about something that maybe you hadn't considered, that could lessen the load.
Hmm, I like that. All right, last question that's a little off the cuff here for you, but do you so you said not you have to find the things that work for your organization. You can't just copy paste from other
Yeah.
organizations. What is one thing that might not have been a copy paste where it was kind of an original idea, or maybe somebody told you that it wouldn't raise funds, but was very successful for you guys and you focused and you doubled down on that? Do you have fundraising practices that you love that are maybe non-standard?
I mean, give everyone a hug who will let you.
The little things.
Lead, lead with hugs. I think one thing I think that has been a little bit different and that we have done is being able to take the experience that we offer from a volunteer perspective and being able to broaden that to teams and groups through sponsorships, which is something that originally, as we were starting to grow, we've only grown organically through word of mouth, and we are very, very fortunate to have a lot of people interested in our mission, but just trying to think about how can we expose more people to the mission, but also be able to provide critical funding for our organization, and using something that we're really good at, like, right, like we're really good at providing an engaging and wonderful community experience when you come in and share your time with us. And so being able to take that idea, that concept, but leave space for people who want to come in, individually, or you want to come in with your best friend, or you want to come in with your partner, but also create more opportunities for teams and groups who want to connect in this really unique way, and very creative way. And so that is one thing that has been, really different for our organization, and has been able to help us raise critical funding, to continue thriving and continue, expanding the programs that we offer.
Mm. So you've found success in your volunteers become your major donors.
Yeah, yeah, or become a good piece of that, right? And being able to also, at the simultaneously at the same time, understand, you know, have it be who's really passionate about the mission too, and who will be able to, maybe even support us beyond volunteering, right? So when teams and groups come in, they sponsor that day of deliveries. And then I think that's really deepened the commitment to getting people through the door if they've raised their hand to volunteer, being able to understand our mission in a more intimate setting, being able to really articulate the value that we're bringing to the community, and in turn create this really incredible experience, for people that's just unlike anything else in our community.
Mm. Yeah, and again, I experienced that firsthand from you guys, Kelly. We didn't just show up and were handed a broom, but you spent the time to invite us into the story of this is how we do this, and this is what the impact is. And so it felt very much like you weren't there just to volunteer; you were there to be a part of
Yeah,
it. And so
that's
that
wonderful.
translates into
And
fun as well. I would most likely assume.
good. Yeah. And for us too, it's like obviously we want people to be involved in our mission and keep coming back and support us in a variety of different ways. But more than anything, too, I just hope that we can inspire people to do small acts of kindness, because we wholeheartedly believe that can change the world. Small acts of kindness. And so, hopefully people are being inspired to do something small, because the small things matter, uh, you know, outside of, people supporting our organization. I hope they're also inspired by what we're doing.
Mm, that's good. Well, Kelly, thank you for giving your advice and sharing your experience of building and founding a nonprofit to these fellow fundraisers.
Thank you so much. We love Donor Doc. Appreciate your time today, Rob.
Awesome. Well, for those listening, I hope this gave you a nudge to lean into that ruthless elimination of more and focus on what matters. We do this live every Tuesday at Central Time, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube as well if you want to listen to past episodes. If you would like to be on the show, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll get you on and so you can share your advice. So we will see you next week.
Thank you so much.